Hello everyone, my name is Monica, creator of the online Boutique Boss course, where I help passionate entrepreneurs just like you start and grow their very own successful online boutiques. And I am so excited right now, and I know I say that all the time, but that's just honestly how I feel. I'm just so excited because we are about to open the doors for this enrollment period of our course and invite new members into our Boutique Boss community. But before we do that, I wanted to put together something special just for you all. So I created this 5-part series on how to build the foundation of your boutique. So today is video number 1, and I am going to be answering the most common questions that I get asked all the time when it comes to starting your business. Now, if you want to see the rest of these videos in our series, then please join our newsletter list. That will be in the description of this video. And that is also the only place where you will have access to all 5 very helpful videos. And again, this is a free workshop. So if you want to see the rest of these videos, which I know you're going to love, then please join our newsletter list. Again, that is in the description of this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the first video. We're going to talk about, again, the most common questions that I get asked all the time when starting your business. And going forward, the rest of the videos in this series, we're going to be talking about building your website and what important tools you should be adding to your website for a high converting online store. We're also going to touch base on building your own unique brand and so many other important strategies that you are just it's going to be awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to give you a little backstory about myself, in case this is the first time we're meeting, I have been a boutique owner for over 5 years, and my journey has definitely been the biggest roller coaster of my life. I have gone through so many ups and downs. I've made so many mistakes throughout my business, really trying to figure everything out. And even through the hardest times where I just felt so discouraged, I just kept going. I just kept moving forward, and I just never gave up. And the reason why I kept pushing forward was because I just loved being a boutique owner. I just loved my business. I was passionate about my brand. I believed in my products, and I believed in my boutique, and I was just so passionate about what I was doing. I just love what I'm doing as a boutique owner, and that really kept pushing me forward. So the very first action step that I have for you, and yes, I do have an action step, so let's pay attention. I want you to ask yourself, why are you starting your business? Why do you want to become a boutique owner? And if your reasons are, maybe you want to make lots of money. Maybe you just heard that having a business, you can have this unlimited amount of income coming in and you can live this rich lifestyle. Or maybe you are working right now and you are just so unhappy at work. You dread getting up in the morning, going to work, and you're tired of listening to your boss, and you just want to have your own business so that you can just do things on your own terms and you can just be your own boss. Now, even though those are definitely benefits to having your own business, but that should absolutely not be the reason why you are starting your business. You should be so passionate about what you're doing. You should love what you're doing, and you should be dedicated to your business. I really want you to dive deep and really think about what motivates you to start your business. What type of impact do you want to make? What do you want to share with other people? Because there will be times where it's going to be hard. Having your business is hard, and there will be times where you might even feel discouraged as well. But once you remember why you started your business, and once you remember that this is something you're truly, truly passionate about, that is going to help you push forward. So this can be a number of different things. This is personal to you. So for example, say you design jewelry and you love the process of creating and designing and making your own unique handpiece jewelry items, and you're just so passionate about making your own jewelry, and that's why you started your boutique, and you would love to see your items on somebody else. You would love to see your designs on somebody else and bring joy to somebody else with your jewelry pieces. Or maybe there's a meaning behind every single one of those jewelry items that you design. Maybe there's a meaning behind that, or maybe you're doing it for a specific cause, or maybe you just love designing jewelry. Or for example, I'm going to give you another example here, and this is one from actually one of our members in our course. Her brand and her business is all about encouraging women of all shapes and sizes, all different ages, to feel confident in her clothing. That is the mantra of her boutique. Her mantra is her clothing is for all blends, and I love that, and that is why she started her business, so that she can make an impact on others, on other women, to feel confident and comfortable in her clothing. So you really want to dive deep, whatever the reason is, whatever pushes you to move forward, that is genuine and that is authentic to you. You want to ask yourself that question, and that is your first action step. Now let's move on to those questions, those very, very common questions that I get asked. And this is going to be more of the technical side of being a boutique owner. So those questions are, Monika, should I quit my job so I can have my business? Should I be working full-time? Should I be working part-time? Should I be working in the same exact field as my boutique? When do I know it's the right time for me to put my 2 weeks notice in and just work on my business full-time? Or what is my potential earning? How much can I actually make from an online store? So let's start with the question of working. So if you're working right now, you're working full-time, that is completely okay. And I actually encourage you to make sure you have that income coming in, that steady income coming in, to take care of your personal expenses and responsibilities. Because even though we're starting a business, that doesn't mean those personal responsibilities go away, right? And I'm going to give you a little story. I'm going to share a little bit about my experience, and I feel like this is very helpful when I can kind of share a little bit about my journey with you guys. So when I started my business, I was working full-time at the bank. I was already working at the bank, and I was working full-time, and then I was going to school. I was in college, and I was working part-time, and then I graduated, and then I started working full-time, and then I launched my store, my online store. And every moment, every free moment that I had, I spent on growing and building my business. So this is your hustle mode right now. This is your time to hustle. So you want to take advantage of every moment that you can when you're starting your business, every moment that you have. So for instance, when I was on my lunch break, I would spend my entire lunch break either on the phone, following up with my inventory, talking to the post office, trying to figure out how to ship my items, the best way to ship my items. Or when I started getting orders coming in, I then would, in the morning before I went to work, I was in my car. I remember doing this vividly. I was in my car packaging all of my orders, getting them all ready so that by the time I went to work, I would again be on my lunch break and spend the entire time at the post office. So before I caught the train to go to work, I was in my car getting things ready for my business. I was on my lunch break, doing everything I could, and I took advantage of the time that I had while I still had that steady income coming in to take care of all my personal expenses so I can focus on my boutique. And then I started working part-time at the bank, and that also answers the question of, do you need to be in the same exact field as your boutique? And, you know, even though that would definitely be ideal, I have had jobs in high school where I was able to work with boutique owners, and that really helped me kind of get, you know, a little learn along the way, right? When you can have that one-on experience with, you know, working in the same field as your business. But I wouldn't necessarily say that that is required, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So now moving back on to working part-time, and I will tell you, in order to have a successful, growing business, this needs to be your priority. You need to put as much time and effort into your business in order for it to really grow and stay consistent. So working part-time helped me with that. I had an extra full day to focus on my boutique, and that really truly helped me. So when it comes to working while you are building your business, that is perfectly okay, and it really depends on the flexibility in the job that you do have in time, right, in hours. Is that job flexible enough for you to focus the majority of your time on your business? Going back to, you know, I was working at a bank, and that's clearly a totally different product-based business, right? A bank and a boutique. Now, even though that's a completely different product-based business, I still took so much away from that experience. I got to work with, you know, different customers. It's a customer service-based business, and having your boutique is the same way. Your customer service is so important to the success of your business. So having that experience with working with different people, I took that with me when I became my own boss. You know, I'm in charge, I'm managing my boutique, I'm, you know, taking care of orders, I'm answering questions. So, you know, again, you don't necessarily have to be in the same exact field, even though that would be totally ideal, but, you know, you want to find something that is flexible for you so that you can eventually, you know, work on your boutique, and that is your priority. Now, if you're asking yourself, maybe I am ready to take the plunge and work completely full-time on my business, how do I know I'm ready for that? Well, you know, it is really different for every single one of us. Our scenarios are different depending on, one, your cost of living, and two, also your lifestyle. Maybe you have kids, and that is another responsibility you have to think about. So it really depends on a number of different things, but I am going to help you kind of figure it out. So what I want you to do, and this is your second action step, is I want you to write down your expenses, your monthly expenses. So you can do this either on, so I have a Apple computer, and I like to use the numbers tool, or you can do this on an Excel worksheet, a Google Doc, or you can even just write it down in your notebook or your planner. But I want you to make a list of all of your monthly expenses. So your rent, your mortgage, your phone bill, your credit cards. So I want you to write down all of those expenses, okay? So now that you have that down, your next step is I want you to write down your entertainment expenses, and this is where your discretionary income comes in. So things like maybe you are subscribed to monthly beauty box subscriptions, or you have premium cable. So I want you to write down all of those entertainment expenses as well. Okay, so you got this down. Now, once you do that, I want you to completely take off a few of those expenses. Those expenses that you know you can do without right now, and maybe come back to down the line. But right now, remember, this is hustle mode, so we want to make some sacrifices here, and you know deep down which of those things that you can eliminate so that you can put more into your business, so that you can invest into your business. Okay, so I want you to completely cross those things off. So I'm going to give you an example again. So when I decided I am going full-time in my business, I knew I had to cut a few activities out. So for me, I would get my nails done, like get a pedicure, get my eyebrows professionally done every 2 weeks. Every 2 to 3 weeks, I would always do that. And that would add up to over $200 a month. $200 a month that I can put towards my business, my inventory, my promotion, my website. $200 that I can use to grow my business. So that is something that I gave up for the time being. Now, that doesn't mean you have to deprive yourself from the things that you love. So I would just do my nails myself. I would, invest in some nice nail polish and do it myself. And it worked out. Now, that leads us to our next step, which is, so now that you completely crossed off a few things, I want you to take a look at your expenses as a whole. Those expenses that you think those are it. Those are set in stone. There's no negotiating there. I want you to take a look at those and really think about, is there a way that you can take those down a notch? Okay, so here's another example. Say you have premium cable. Maybe you can get Netflix and pay $10 a month for Netflix, because I know I can't live without my favorite TV shows, Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and New Girl. So, if there's a way that you can eliminate or lower some of those expenses to help you put more into your business, then I would recommend really thinking about that. And again, this is not so you don't have anything that you enjoy. So that leads us to our next questions, which are, what are our startup costs for a boutique, and also what's our potential earning? How much can we make in having an online store? So the majority of your budget, the majority of your business expenses is going to go towards your inventory, and that is also going to tell you how much you can potentially earn. Now, I want to mention that in our online Boutique Boss course, we will have dedicated videos on your inventory budget, on your startup costs, as well as how to price your items. We're going to be talking about markups and margins and all of those important things that you need to know, like knowing your numbers. Those are all things we need to know in order to know if our business is profitable. So again, we will be going over all of those topics in much further detail in our course, which I do hope you decide to join us for, but I wanted to touch base on a few things in this series. So again, most of your budget, your expenses, is going to go towards your inventory. So say you have $500 and you put $500 worth of inventory down. So this can also be your materials, so your cost of goods. So if you're designing and creating your own items for your boutiques. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, $500, is this going to be enough to stock up my boutique? I want a fully stocked boutique. And another question that I get asked all the time is, how much products do I need in my online store to launch my boutique? This is something that I encourage my students all the time, and that is, work with what you have and make the absolute best out of it. Work with the tools and the inventory budget that you have and make the absolute best out of it. If you have 10 items in your store, I want you to take the best photos of those items. I want you to write the absolute best description of those products. And I want you to use the tools and the resources that you have and make the absolute best out of it. We don't have to have the number one of everything, the professional of everything. We don't have to be perfect, and we can start small. We are always learning and we're always growing, and that is perfectly okay. So I always encourage you to work with what you have and make the absolute best out of it. Now, let's go back to that dollar amount. So for example, say you have $500 worth of inventory. So how much of that do you have to sell in order to make that net profit, in order to take care of your personal expenses as well as the rest of your business expenses? And that will tell you how much, one, you need to sell, and two, your earning potential. So that is based off of your products and your inventory count, right? Now, when you're just starting out, what most likely the process is going to be is you're going to invest in your inventory, and whatever you start to sell, you're going to put that back into your inventory so you can continue to grow your product base on your online store. We want to continue investing in our products and our inventory to keep growing, growing, growing. So that is usually what the process will be when you're just starting out, is to take that inventory budget, whatever you sell, put it back into your inventory to keep growing your boutique. And eventually down the line, once you start getting a flow of orders coming in, or you have an understanding of the operations of your business, and you know your inventory budget, you start making a profit, putting that back in, and whatever you have left over from your inventory budget, that will go into maybe your personal expenses or maybe other aspects of your business as well. Okay, so again, you can start small and eventually put more back into it. Take your net profit and set that aside for other expenses. Okay, so that is usually how that process can work for you, but it's really, really important to know your numbers. Know what are your margins, know how much you have to sell your products for, know what your cost of goods sold is for those products, and understand your profit margin. And that will tell you, one, how much you need to sell in order to make that end profit goal. So I hope you found our first video helpful. Now let's do just a quick little overview. So number one, I want you to ask yourself why you are starting your business, and I also want you to write that down as well. So next, when it comes to working, that is completely okay for you to continue working and support yourself while you start and learn and grow your business. And if you can eventually work part-time and focus more time and effort to your business, then that would be ideal as well. Now, when it comes to working full-time on your business alone and asking yourself that question, if you're ready to do that, that again really depends on you and your situation at home and your lifestyle at home. This really depends on your support system. Maybe you have a support system at home and that allows you to work on your business right now. It really depends on your personal scenario and situation and lifestyle. We're all different. But what I want you to do again is to write it down so that you know what to expect and you're crystal clear on what you need to move forward. Now, when it comes to your startup costs, the majority of your budget is going to go towards your inventory, which that will also tell you your potential net profit. What I want to leave you with and what I want you to remember is to use what you have and make the absolute best out of it. So again, I hope you enjoyed our very first video in this 5-part series on how to build the foundation of your boutique. If you're ready to move on to our next videos, again, please join our newsletter list. I would love to have you over there. And again, I hope you do decide to join our course and community when we open the doors. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you there.